Control. I think sometimes nowadays we just don't realize that some things are up to us and some things aren't, and confusing the two of when they are and when they aren't is when it really can be painful, and it can be hard to live life when you're always trying to control something that isn't in your control. Now, before we get too far into this, I know I have a TikTok monkey brain myself, and control being the words on the screen is pretty boring. So I'm thinking, so like Pokemon, I can throw some Subway up there, Subway Surfers. We'll get that TikTok monkey brain. I know you came here for the Pokemon. You don't care about control and the dichotomy of control. Like, what even does that mean? Maybe I could throw in some like music too. But going back to control, the key when you talk about the dichotomy of control is identifying and being able to identify on daily what is up to you and what isn't. And some things that are up to you are judgments, choices, effort, and responses, right? The impressions you have to an external stimulus, to anything going on in your environment, how you look at it, how you perceive what happened, how you work, your effort, all of those things are up to you. What's not up to you is what ends up happening, other people, your reputation, the past, or the future. None of that is truly in your control. And I know it can be hard sometimes because a lot of the people today feel like, and even myself have felt this, it's like I worked hours this week on whatever, work, school, a project, the hours at the chef in the kitchen, whatever it is. You spend all this time and the outcome doesn't work out. You didn't get the job, you didn't get the promotion, you don't have your girlfriend, you don't have a boyfriend, whatever it is, it doesn't happen. And that's painful. That's never not going to be painful. Is the big correction within that is that you can only control the inputs, not what actually happens. Because whatever actually happens goes far beyond the things I listed above that are up to you. There are so many things in this world that can cause chaos and things to happen that you just can't control. I think, again, it goes back to where the suffering comes from. It comes from when you assume you have more control than you really do. I think a lot of younger people like myself, being 21, we feel untouchable and we feel like that the world is our oyster and that we can do whatever and control whatever and all outcomes that happen. And I think that as you grow up, you learn that you don't have nearly as much control as you do. But the control you do have is more than enough to live a peaceful, happy life. To touch on a couple of examples of control and what is and isn't up to you. I think most of us have probably worked a job or are working a job, and there's a promotion or you want to go to a different career or something, and you prepare for the interview, you know the people well, you showed up, you worked hard, but you don't get the job. And it hurts. I mean, it just sucks. You feel like you just poured all of this time and energy into getting the job, you didn't get it. And that is what happened. But if you are worried about the job itself only, whether you get it or you don't get it, you're going to live an unhappy life if that's how you approach things. If your self-worth, if your happiness was set on something like a job, which does not have factors you can fully control. Of course you can work on your interview, and of course you can practice a bunch of skills to be prepared and to be the best candidate for it. But at the end of the day, the economy could go bust. The employer could not hire anybody. It wasn't even for you, or they could have had a nepo baby, someone else that got the job over you. That wasn't fair, but it's what happened. But you don't have any control on that. And if you keep setting your value and your self-worth onto the end result like that, you're not going to live a happy life. It doesn't have to be something as big as getting a job, right? You could have a need a job that's bigger. You need the salary for family. Obviously, that's insanely brutal. But sometimes this can be on a smaller scale. A day-to-day example could look like this. You're in traffic, and someone pulls in front of you and slams on their brakes and nearly gets into an accident with you. Most people's first reaction is to get unbelievably upset, and partly rightfully so. They should not have done what they have done, to pull in front of you and to possibly cause a wreck. They shouldn't have done that. But that lingering feeling of anger after the initial shock of them doing that is your choice. What's not your choice is their actions. Them doing that, you don't get to dictate whether that did or doesn't happen. And if you're going to let an action like that dictate your happiness, do you see where there's a problem? If you would let anyone pull in front of you, any one person's action that you don't have any control over, and they do that, you're not going to be a very happy person. You have to be aware that they are not in your control. What is in your control is looking at the feelings that you have, the anger and the upsetness of the fact that he just or she just pulled in front of you. You are controlling the judgment and your emotions. You can have the initial shock of like, what just happened? But then you can pull it back, be like, okay, I mean, I expect that. People are going to do that. I can't control that. I did what I could to not get hit and move on. But by choosing to be upset by the situation and continuing to let that anger fester, that is the choice you're making. And genuinely, why even get angry when you really think about it, right? Obviously, the initial shock's going to happen, and that's normal, that's human, that's how it should happen. But what does being angry do for the situation? It just ruins your mood about something that being angry is not going to fix. So if you let other people dictate your happiness or your peace by the things that they're doing, you will not live a happy and peaceful life. There are just so many people in this world who are not the nicest people and who are having bad days. And you cannot control what they do and how it affects you, right? What you can control is how you feel and respond to what they have done. You can control how you feel about the situation. I think that's really the key. If you can perceive in your moment of your life, big, small moments, you can pause and understand this was or was not in my control. That's the key to having more peace. And I think a more general example of this is effort versus results, no matter what you're doing. And a more general framework of it, usually our suffering and unhappiness comes from the effort we put in not resulting to what we want. You judge yourself and you're upset by the outcome. How you should start really looking at it is you shouldn't be upset by the fact you didn't get what you wanted. You should be proud of yourself that you worked hard and did what you could and let your emotions be based on what you could control. And you looked at the situation and said, I didn't get it. The meal didn't turn out like how I wanted to cook it. I didn't get the job. Life isn't going well. But I'm proud because I am doing everything I can that's in my control daily to achieve what I am trying to achieve. And that's all I can do. Now, something important to note is that this isn't to say you should detach or not care. You should fully care. But where you care and where you tie the value, you should care about what you can control, the effort you put in. But when it comes to the actual outcome, that's where you need to hold it loosely. You need to let happen what happens. You can want something without needing it, especially something outside of your control. If I wanted to gain 15 pounds of muscle in the gym, of course, that's perfectly fine to want that. And I should want things, and I should care to try to get them. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, I should still be at peace knowing that I worked as hard as I could and did what I could. I did what was in my control. I put the effort, the time, the energy, the focus, and then I controlled my response to the outside result of not gaining 15 pounds if I did. It all comes down to you. in what is in your control and ignoring what isn't, and being okay and being at peace when you do everything you can. So the real skill, and I myself am only 21. I'm no expert in philosophy and life. I'm learning so much. But the real skill that I'm
lingering
practicing
feeling
and
of
learning
anger after the
is
initial shock
the
of them doing
pause.
that is
You
your
have
choice.
to be able
What's
to,
not
in
your
those
choice
situations,
is their
big or
actions.
small,
Them doing that,
get the
you don't get
rejection
to dictate
call,
whether that
you
did
get
or
cut
doesn't
off
happen.
in traffic, someone was mean
And if
to
you're
you.
going to let an
Just
action
take
like
a
that
second.
dictate your happiness, do you see
Reevaluate.
where there's a
Did
problem?
you do
If you
everything
would
you
let
could?
anyone pull in front of you,
Is this
any one
something
person's
that was
action that
not
they
completely
you
in
don't
my
have any
control
control
to
over,
do?
and they do that,
If it
you're
wasn't,
not going to
if
be a
the
very happy
outcome
person.
was not
You have
fully
to be
dependent
aware that they are not in
on
your control.
your own
What
actions,
is in your control
then
is looking
relax
at the
and
feeling that you
evaluate what
have,
you
the anger
could
and the
do.
upsetness
And this
for
is
the
where
fact
it's
that
not to
he's
just say you
just or
should
she
feel
just pulled
better
in front
about
of you.
yourself at all times.
You are
Let's say you
controlling your
did want to
judgment
get that
and your
job
emotions.
and you
You
didn't
can have
get
the
it.
initial shock of like,
That
what?
does suck.
What just happened?
It
And then you can
hurts.
pull it back. Be
But
like,
where you need to
okay. I mean, I
evaluate goes
expect that
back to
people are going to do
yourself.
that.
I
And
can't
if you
control
find
that.
out I did what I could to not get hit
Man,
and
I
move
really
on.
didn't try very hard
But by
for this.
choosing to be upset by the
I
situation
didn't do
and
everything I
continuing
could
to
have
let
or
the
should have
anger
done to
fester,
get this job.
that is the choice
Then
you're
you need
making.
to focus on what you could have controlled for the future. You need to be careful, though, within this. Focusing on the past and future too hard can also lead to a lot of negative emotions. But viewing and reflecting on what you can and can't control via your impressions, emotions, or effort is very, very important. And this is really hard to pause in the moment when you're frustrated or sad and be like, is this mine to control or not? And then putting your attention back where it belongs is really difficult. So I think when you do and are trying things like this to be more at peace, it's just a practice. It's an everyday struggle where you have to try to remind yourself in those hard moments. You have to pull yourself back. You have to remember the pause that we talked about here. Now, something I do want to say to kind of close out this talk of the dichotomy of control is that this doesn't go make things stop hurting. This isn't about detaching yourself from what you want and care about to have. It is going to help you do this, however. It's going to help you stop the pain from turning into judgments about your worth. And what I mean by that is it's going to stop you from viewing the outcomes you want and thinking you need and then saying, I'm not good enough. Because when you're able to look at yourself and say, I did everything I could, I did a good job, or he pulled in front of me in this traffic, what can I do? I couldn't control that. You are going to live a more peaceful life. This isn't a trick. This isn't going to just make life perfect. You're not going to live sunshine and rainbows just realizing what you can and can't control. But when you practice evaluating it in those hard situations day to day or bigger situations, what you are going to feel as a byproduct of this steadiness that you're trying to work on when evaluating control, you're going to feel peace or happiness because you realize day in and day out, I am doing what I can and can't do. And if I'm not, that's something you can change and you can do. To simply put it, the dichotomy of control is just worrying about what you can control. That's it. There's things you can't control. If you can't control it, why worry about it? If you can control it, control it. Do what you should or should have done. You usually know when you should or shouldn't have done something, so just do it. I think that when you start doing the things you should and evaluating it and not worrying about the things you can't, you'll be surprised at how much stress goes away in your life.